Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Team Tuesday this week with Samet Ulutas. Hey, Samet, welcome back.
Hi, Vasco.
So, Samet, on Tuesdays, we explore the teams and how sometimes they develop these patterns or behaviors that lead to problems. But before we go into that, of course, we all need to learn a lot as Scrum Masters. So we want to share a resource, specifically a book that our listeners can go and read and learn to be better Scrum Masters. So share with us, Samet, what was the book that most influenced you in your career as a Scrum Master?
Agile Retrospectives Make Good Teams Great by Esther and Larsen. I read it 3 years ago. It included everything for any team to improve. Based on the inspect and adapt pillars of Scrum, it introduces the retrospective structures deeply, shares many great activities in it, with time duration information suggestion. It's like a Bible, great guide for the who facilitates a retrospectives for any team. And I also love the name of it. Most of us believe that we work with a good team. No one is willing to say that I work with a bad team. But this book realizes that, and it is okay with the good teams, but it offers that. Why don't you make your good team great? Let you join us and make your team great. It's a really assertive name, but the book really deserves that name. I thank both Esther and Diana sincerely.
Yeah, absolutely. Agile Retrospectives, Making Good Teams Great is one of the classics that we've mentioned before here on the podcast. And as you said, they describe let's call it the canonical format, the original format for retrospective. Since then, we've talked about many different types of formats that build on that, right? Make that even better. Is there something from that book that you remember, like a story or an example or something that you remember from that book that you think explains why every Scrum Master should read it?
I remember that it was really shocking moment to realize that how can a retro help a team to be better, because it's really huge book and has lots of details in it. There is a structures for the retros, and you can end up to create a really good team. I also suggest that book to my leaders, not for the Scrum Master, because I believe that lots of people should read it and to help their own teams.
Yeah, not only Scrum Masters. I think that's a very good point. Also, it's not a very long book, so it's a great recommendation for team members that want to explore more. What is this retrospectives topic all about? Exactly. A great recommendation for sure, Samet. Now we turn our attention to the teams and how sometimes they become their own worst enemies. So let's dive into that and let's tell that story of that particular anti-pattern or set of behaviors that developed over time and ultimately led to problems in the team.
Yeah, Vasco, I was the Scrum Master of one of the investment team before. They were really qualified, highly experienced team. It was first time they were going to work as Agile. However, there was a great resistance to Agile since they trust themselves so much. They believed that they could do great things with working as waterfall too. So once I was assigned as a Scrum Master, I immediately organized the ceremonies for the team and I was really excited to work with them. However, nothing went as I expected. Firstly, some of them didn't appear in the dailies without an excuse. I mentioned the respect value of Scrum in the retros and tried to convince them to attend every dailies. However, the most powerful characters of team objected my offer and they said that we are all aligned and we don't need to meet every day for dailies. And once the most powerful characters tells that, no one speaks in the retros. At the next retro, I tried to make facilitation and I tried the others to join conversation, but I failed. Those characters believed that they were the best team ever. However, the science showed that there were some disturbance between team members and they could do better if everyone could talk and bring every issues onto the table. After a few retros, I began to do one-on-ones with those stronger characters and realized that They were afraid of losing their power. I explained that how Agile is transparent about the team performance, and I assured them they could show the value they create more than they ever did. Since each sprint review, they were going to show the increments to the stakeholders. They could get instant feedbacks and had a chance to adapt. Moreover, the other metrics will support them, such as story points, burn down charts, release burn down charts, and so on. With them, it would be easier to tell to stakeholders real impediments they face. Moreover, they were going to have a chance to deal with problems and find solutions in retros. Scrum is a really good framework for them too, to become more efficient and more powerful. With telling those realities, I just could convince them to run the ceremonies. And it was enough for me at that time, because once people appear at the ceremonies and really add some words there, it really initiates them to grow. In just few months, the resistance became invisible. They began to ask me more about the tools they can use, and they also really helped me to grow too.
Yeah, once people show up, everything works better. It reminds me that one of the key goals for us as Scrum Masters in those ceremonies is to open up the space for them to talk, right? To share what's going on. A very common, I heard it even today. We don't really need this because we're already doing the right things. We don't need retrospectives because we already know how to do things well. We don't need customer feedback because we already know what the customers need. And when people say that, what they are actually saying is, I'm not sure I want to get feedback. I'm not sure I want to be criticized because it might mean that I'm not good enough, right? And there's always that fear. Everyone has that fear. We have that fear as well as Scrum Masters, right? And we need to empathize with that. But one thing that you said, which I think is incredibly powerful for our Scrum Master friends out there listening to this, is really just open up the space, let people talk about what's important to them, and great things can happen.
Yes, absolutely right, Vasco.
So let's talk a little bit about what are some of the tools and techniques that you use to create that space, right? So when you started inviting the team to those ceremonies, at first they were maybe hesitant. And you said, I worked with them explaining why the ceremonies were important and why it would help them be even better. But when they showed up, you had to help them speak, right? And share what was going on. What were some of the tools you used for that?
Actually, at that time, I generally use facilitation techniques. I use open-ended questions, ask people who don't generally speak, and I try to use bridge questions. I tell them, Sadık says something. What do you think about between those kind of situations? So I try help them to adapt the conversation. But if they really still have some resistance to talk, then I organize one-to-one and I use their grow coaching method there, which I generally followed as a coaching method. But it's not enough. We as Scrum Masters should tell our story to create a shared value between the team members and us. If we share something from our personal life, then it creates some trust. Then the other people try to really tell us real story, because we need that story. We need to find out the resistance in the detail.
The Grow coaching model is definitely a great help. So I'll put the link on the show notes so that people can go and read more about it. Samet, thank you for sharing this with us.
Thank you very much, Vasco.
Tuesday is Team Day here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. But tomorrow we talk about something that goes beyond the work we do with the teams. We will talk about how to lead change and what our guests have learned from leading and participating in change programs during their career. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.